Hello, Global Theater. My name is Jerry Fialka. Today is April 11, 2023. We want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast, I'm Probably Wrong About Everything. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with Decio Slomp. Where in the heck you calling in from, Decio?
Yeah, I'm calling from the wonderful city of Rio de Janeiro.
How cool is that? The
Yeah.
first question, that's Brazil.
Yes, Brazil.
The first question is, what is the best thing for a human being?
Well, for me is the possibility to satisfy our needs.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will explain. First, we
Please.
have a need for food and shelter. Then we need education. We need to start a career, to make some money, some savings, to love, because love loves to love. And then leisure, travel, and when you have some savings, I think is we need to have a self fulfillment, self fulfillment with philanthropy or other things, reading, etc.
Very good. What's your favorite form of information, how it comes into you?
You know, for me as an engineer, we use from the Latin datum in the singular and data in the plural. We
Yeah.
use data in order to transform it into information using statistics and mathematical models using probability, etc., and so on.
But is that in the form of paper, or what form do you like the data in? What's your favorite form to have the data in, the information in?
We collect the data. No? For instance, if you want to know the average height of the students of a class, you take the measurements and then you make the statistics and you have the average height of the students in the class. It's an idea.
Right. Well, why do you think humans collect or gather information?
For many purposes. For instance, in medicine, you need information, you need data. For instance, after the COVID, during the COVID, you need to know how many people had the COVID, how many died, how many per state, per country, etc. If we want to do a dissertation, a thesis of a master's degree or PhD, you have to collect data to put into a model, and you arrive to some conclusions and recommendations, etc. So on.
Do you think this need or want to collect information is more innate or more invented?
For me, is innate and also invented. Is a either or. It's not either or. It's
Yeah.
both of them. We need information for everything. Information is important in the corporate, for instance. We use it to make a balance sheet, to make a project, to everything, for everything.
Do thoughts create emotions?
Well, thought is the thought of the thought. Yes, thoughts can create emotions, and emotions can create thought. If you are happy, if you are sad, if you have some troubles, we enter into some different feelings and emotions, and we can have thoughts.
Good. No, that's good. Now, Decio, fill in the blank. I don't know what I think
until I process the information. I have
process. Yeah.
process the information to make it to in order to make decisions. For the decision making, I need to process information to evaluate. So,
Can humans think without language?
well, Italians do. They think they 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 speak with their hands. No? Musicians also they 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 the music, if no lyrics, is a kind of language without word.
That's right. Noam Chomsky says a language is not just words, it's a culture, a tradition, a unification of community, a whole history that creates what a community is. What do you do when language doesn't work? When language breaks down, what do you do?
It happens sometimes in the communication. So I will try to to talk and to to make a trade-off with the other part in order to arrive to some agreement. So we have to talk, we have to discuss, and to arrive to conclusions good for both parts.
It's good. And do you think humans are more thinking beings or more feeling beings?
Uh, for my understanding, I think people are very sensitive to feelings. Uh, is is difficult to make everybody happy when you talk to somebody. Sometimes we have a, a disruption or a difficult in communicate. So we try to have to arrive to an agreement.
Right. Resolve it. So these are two questions from Alan Turing in the 1950s. Is thinking a function of the soul?
So let's talk about the soul. According to Plato in the Republic, he started with the idea of the soul. And also Aristotle in his metaphysics uses uh, this concept, this idea, and also that after the dead, we are dead, the soul continues to exist. So we have this transcendency. And the church, the religion, in our case of Catholic religion, we have St. Augustine and Thomas Aquinas. They used this information about the soul as dogmas for the religion. So the religion says that after, after in the afterlife, the soul continues to exist. But this is not a scientific, at the point of scientific thoughts, for me is not valid. So the thinking is a function of the mind, of the, the network of neuronics, and also the synapses we have in our brains. I think the thinking is a function of the mind.
Thank you, Thank you, Decio. I always appreciate your input. This is fun. Second question from Turing is, can machines think?
Uh, we think with words, no? And words, if you take a dictionary, there are thousands of words, and we just keep some words, a small quantity of what is in the dictionary. And in order to think or to do something or to take process information or make a decision, we make combinations, permutations, and arrays of these words in order to express ourselves. Is a logical array. And if it's logical, it can be programmed, I think. If you take Ludwig Wittgenstein,
Yeah.
In his Tractatus Logicus Philosophicus, he tried to use the Boolean logic to use in language, but he didn't succeed. So he did another work later on and used as a game of words. And the game of words is more possible for our understanding. What is the question? Could you repeat the question, please?
Can machines think?
Yeah. So if language is something logic, it can be programmed. So we have this now we have this chat GPT and other artificial intelligence. They are based on trillions of informations and words and everything of our knowledge. They put this together and then I think they have more power than our brain, in my understanding. But the machines don't have the possibility for the feeling.
Yeah.
This is more human. No?
Very good. Do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
I understand that we are always pursuing happiness. But happiness is one ideal thing. Happiness is the unreachable star, like the unreachable star is we have just some moments of happiness. During the day, we have many problems to solve. During the life, we have a lot of problems with business, with family, with relationship. So is one thing ideal, is like the truth. Truth is also ideal. And the reality is also ideal. The real, if we take, for instance, and let me give an example. There is as the all in all of us, as Joyce says. That is what I think that I am. That is what you think what I am. And that is what I think other people think what I am. But there is something that nobody knows, and even myself don't know about myself. So the reality of myself, I don't know.
Yeah.
We are very complex.
Very complex, really well put. Does the brain more detect consciousness or create consciousness? Like, is consciousness there bubbling away and we're detecting it, or are we more creating it?
Consciousness, I think, is a function of the brain, of the mind. Is indeed everyday life. We use our brain for all our activities. So it's a function of our brain.
What's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
We have to talk something about the concept of speed.
Very good.
The speed is the division is a division of the space by the time.
Yeah.
So kilometers per hour, miles per hour, and we are about 92 million miles from the sun. And the rays of the sun, of the lights of the sun, takes 8 minutes to arrive to in the Earth where we live. So if we divide this distance by 8 minutes and divide per 60 seconds, we have 192,000 miles per second. It's a really high speed. And in the case of the brain, we don't have a distance. We don't have a time. It's difficult to compare these unities, understand? And according to Einstein, the constant of the speed of light is the highest speed we know. The brain is very fast to process information, to make decisions, but I think it's not comparable. Sorry about this.
Don't be sorry, Decio. You're the only person in 40 years who understood the question in big terms, because I say faster, speed of light or speed of thought. They never tackle the word speed. They tackle the word light and thought. So that was bravo to you. Very good. Very good. There's a poet, Audre Lorde. She said, "You can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools." One of her colleagues, Yvonne Rayner, responded and said, "You can if you expose the tools." What new tool do you suggest?
Now, there are many issues we cannot solve. And we can suggest some unconventional ones. One, let's take the question of the heating of the planet, the climate problem, pollution, and the population, the excess of population. By the year 2050, we will be at 10 billion souls, in this case, soul.
Yeah.
10 billion souls. We are arriving to a Malthusian situation. How we can feed all these people? Is there resource for everybody? So we see this conference of United Nations, this conference, COP27, that was in Egypt. They talk for many solutions, like the carbon, credits of carbon, and other things. But they don't talk in reducing the rate of the growth of the population.
Yeah.
If you go to the Kruger Park in South Africa, they play God. They control the animal chain. We will arrive to this situation someday, because there is no possibility to give welfare and good conditions for all the population. We have millions of poor people. The governments and the economies, they want growth of the GNP and growth of the population. In our case, in Brazil, we are growing the poor people. So there is no welfare for everybody.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. Someday we have to control the growth of the population.
Yeah. What do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
Well, it takes me some time to get asleep. I do some assessment, some evaluation what I did during the day, what I did well, why what I would suppose it to do better, if I made some money, and if I had good relation with people.
Yeah.
And also I do some planning for the next day. So it takes me some time to start sleeping.
Are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
Old ideas, they are consolidated. They are there, just there.
Yeah.
But new ideas, we have to evaluate new ideas because there is human beings, they have lots of creativity, lot of new things. So I agree, we need to understand the new ideas, to process, and to improve these things for the ameliorment of the situation.
You know, Marshall McLuhan learned from the poet Ezra Pound that artists are the antenna of the race. They're broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, so we might be able to cope with what we don't like about our inventions. So, Decio, I asked you the question McLuhan probed his whole career. Why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though the artists are broadcasting them to us?
I like art. If we take, for instance, painting, I like the surrealism.
Yeah.
Salvador Dali, Giorgio de Chirico, Magritte.
Yeah.
And the art is a little hermetic. It's difficult to understand. You have to read about. We have to interpret it. If we take, for instance, the film of Buñuel, Le Discret Charme de la Bourgeoisie, or The Phantom of Liberty, it's difficult to understand because it's related to our dreams,
Yeah.
our wakes. If we take Finnegan's Wake, for instance, it's really hermetic. I've been reading Finnegan's Wake for more than 10 years. And I don't know, I can't understand not more than 10% because it's everything is hidden. We need to read many books, guided books, to have just a small idea what is going on in this hell of a book.
We're going to get into that. I'm glad you brought it up, Decio. A couple more questions on your background. Can you conjure up your earliest memory ever?
I remember when I was probably 6 years old, by the 1952. My father, our family, we were traveling from one state to the other in the south of Brazil by car. And the roads were not paved. And there was a lot of jungle around.
Yeah.
And in the afternoon, close to the night, it started raining, and the car was stuck in the mud. So my father tried to move the car on, but it was impossible. And then we have to spend the night in the pound of in the mud. It was my father, my mother, two sisters, and myself. So we spent the night there. The next day came a huge truck that towed away our car and other cars from that pound. So we proceeded to travel. So it was in my memory because it was a difficult situation.
Is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
Definitely, memory is a blessing.
Tell me someone.
But just a moment.
Yeah.
Talking about memory. Maybe you know this painting about Salvador Dali, the persistence of the memory.
Yes, I know it.
I painting in the Modern Art Museum of New York. There are 3 watches.
Yes.
Melting like camembert.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think they give the idea of time, past, present, and future. In my understanding, because it's difficult to understand. And memory give us the idea of time. We have to write in order to have information from the past. And history is based on the writing. And history give us the idea of time, the past. There is infinity of time before us and the infinity of time after us. And there are also space. In the space, there is infinity of space around us. And memory gives us the idea of time.
That's good. Really, you're bringing up all my heroes, Dali and Buñuel. I appreciate it. But let's go into your background a little. Tell me someone just briefly within your immediate family, then outside your immediate family, who had an impact on you, kind of like a role model. And what specifically was that impact?
About my family, it was my father. I admire my father. He was a self-made man. He studied the University of Life. He was a developer. He was he used to be a planner. He, he, he bought pieces of land around the city where we lived and subdivided it in order to make lots, to sell lots. So he was a real estater. And he was very optimistic in planning to construct the utilities and bring industries and other facilities in order to improve the new area of the city and to grow the city. So he was a planner, and he was very optimistic. With his optimistic, the things went on. So I admire his optimism. And in my life, I remember during my engineering course, I had a teacher of highway pavement and design. He was a well-prepared professor, and everybody liked it. He was very competent, but he was very humble in his behavior. So I learned from my father optimism, and from this professor to be humble.
Well put. So you are so articulate, Decio. I appreciate this. Now, you were raised Roman Catholic. Do you pray now?
Yeah. As you know, children that have no religion. So our family I studied in a Catholic school, and also my father has a relative of the family. He was going to be a priest, so I was assigned to help his first mass in Latin. At the time, it was Latin. The mass was in Latin.
Yeah.
So I was growing the religion, Catholic religion. But then, if you read some philosophy, and after reading Nietzsche, he said that the Bible says that the man was created by God. And he said that the man created God. And also reading Richard Dawkins.
Yes.
I don't remember his name, the name of the book. I changed in my mind. So today I don't pray anymore.
If God exists, what would you like God to say to you after you die?
If you read Dante, Infernos, you get scared. What was it? His Inferno he described. And when I read the Purgatory, Dante was accompanied by Virgil in the Purgatory
Yes.
also. And there is one soul there that was in the Purgatory since the time of Jesus Christ. So this soul stayed 1,300 years in the Purgatory, and it was up to go to the heavens. So if you arrive in front of God, He would say to me, "This is not your place. Go to Purgatory."
You are so fun and smart. Do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
This question of good and evil is treated in the Bible. Cain, Abel. Cain was the first one to be the evil by the Bible. St. Augustine also treated this situation of many cases about the good and the bad. If we take Shakespeare, Richard III, this was really a bad man, evil man. He tried everything in order to take the power, killed his brother, his nephews, and everybody that was in his way in order to be Richard III. But he was defeated. But Henry, the one that became Henry VII, he said, a horse, my kingdom for a horse. If we take Hitler also, an evil person. So evil is everywhere. There is people that is like this.
Yeah. And Decio, the question really is how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? And first, a couple thoughts. Alan Watts says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole from the mob and the samurais, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So it's a lot of thoughts. The basic question is, Decio, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? But first, how would you respond to Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
That's correct. But if you cannot warn your enemy, you have to join to him. See? And to deal with an enemy, we have to study his behavior, try to negotiate, to do some conversations, to try to make a trade-off. Maybe sometimes you need to give something in order to get something.
Yeah. And very good. Nassim Taleb said games were created to give non-heroes the illusion of winning. In real life, we don't know who wins or loses, but we know who a hero is. Someone responded to me and said, well, villains don't think they're bad. They want control. Heroes want freedom. Gregory Bates, an anthropologist, says if the criminal gets caught, does he go, oh, my criminal skills weren't up to snuff that day, or wow, I did something morally and socially wrong? So it's a lot of thoughts. The basic question is, does punishment work?
Well, I think we live in a society that has to be controlled, because people can be good and people can be evil. And people commit crime, some people, sometimes because of silly things, or sometimes to take money from others. And we have the law. The justice is there to judge. Like we had in the past, we have the 10 Commandments. We have the Code of Hammurabi. We have the 12 tables, the Napoleonic Code. In the States, you have the system of the mores in Latin is the constitutional right, is based on other judgments. No?
Yeah.
And we have to follow the law. Justice is there in order to punish the people that are guilty. This is a rule of our society.
Yeah. James Joyce was the first projectionist in Dublin 100 years ago. He basically checked out. He said, this is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree? Years later, Faulkner said sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. Why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
The normal life is kind of boring. We have many things many problems, many issues to take care. And art, the seven art, let's say the movies, the theater, is a kind of fantasy. We are like kids, children. We like fantasy. In 2 hours, in less than 2 hours, we can have a biography of an important people, the history of a country, or a great piece of art, theater, the classics. So we prefer the art to the real life. It's my thinking.
That's good. What was the motive of the cave artist? What was your hunch or guess?
The caves, the art in the caves, no? primitive, prehistory, is the first manifestation of art. They left something for the future generations. It's still there. You can find it in many places in Spain, France, even in Brazil. We have this art in the caves. If we study the history of art, we start with the art from the caves, and we go on to the Mesopotamian, the Greeks, the Egyptians, the Romans, and so on. We arrive to today. It's a first manifestation of art.
Right, but why do you think the cave artists made their art? What's your guess? What do you think? Why did they do it? Their motivation?
To show this, to maybe they are the primitive groups. They settle in the caves, or they were nomads. So they live. Maybe they leave this place because there is no more animals to hunt, and to leave some idea what was his life to the other people that possibly come there. It's my idea. Don't know.
Do you think artists have moral obligation?
In our society, everybody has a moral obligation. Artists, they can show his inside using the art. They also can show religion, political influence, but they have some responsibility, like everybody. So
yeah. Decio, walk us through your career, your calling, and where the tipping point went over. So why did you study civil engineering and transportation in Ohio, of all places, in America? Why did you study there and not in Brazil? And then what's the tipping point for you to pursue that? Like, are you in high school, or because was it your father, or what got you to pursue that for your career?
Well, in the 50s, we lived in a small town in the interior of Brazil, in the south of Brazil, Paraná state. And my father was, as I said, a developer. We started a new section of the city, and we're still in this business there. He decided to visit the Iguaçu Falls. The Iguaçu River enters the Paraná River. The Paraná River goes down to Buenos Aires. And this Iguaçu River, about 10 miles from his mouth, entering the Paraná River, there is this big falls. There are more than 30 falls. There is a big one called the Devil's Gorge. This is terrible. Once we went there, later on, we went there went in an helicopter, and the helicopter stopped on the top of this gorge. It was really terrible. But we visited this falls, and this fall was also visited by Eleanor Roosevelt. And she said, "Oh, poor Niagara." So after visiting these falls, we went to the Paraná River. And the Paraná River and the Iguaçu, they are the borders between Brazil, Argentina, and Paraguay. And from Brazil to Paraguay, our government was building a new bridge. This is a big river. It's like the Mississippi, I would say.
Yeah.
Great river. And there it was an arch bridge. Is a 600-foot span in this arch. Is like the one you have in the Big Sur.
Yeah.
Maybe you know, between San Francisco and LA. It's a nice bridge.
I know that, yes.
They built another one in front of the Hoover Dam in Las Vegas. It's a nice bridge, arch bridge. I know this.
I've been there too, yes.
I worked with it. And so after seeing this construction, I decided to study engineering.
Yeah. Then tell us about your tipping point in pursuing literature. Are you reading books all through high school and college? Classic, Plato, and Nietzsche? And then how did you discover Joyce? What kicked you over into Joyce?
I'll take some time to explain this. When I was around 10 years old in Curitiba, south of Paraná, in Paraná state, and my mother took me to the public library. And there I started reading the books for the kids. Is the Green Brothers, Snow White, the Beauty and the Beast, and so on. And then I started reading the biographies of the composers.
Yeah.
Paganini, Haydn, Mozart, so on. And then I discovered a book by one scientist that wanted to prove that the people from Polynesia came from South America. So this was Thor Heyerdahl. He wrote a book about this. He built a raft from a kind of wood that is in Peru. And with this raft and 4 more companions, they went to the sea, and during 3 months, using the current of Humboldt that goes from in the Pacific from Peru to the Polynesia, they arrived to the Polynesia. So they proved that maybe proved that the Polynesia was populated by people from South America. And also then I read a book of the circumnavigation of Ferdinand of Magalhães. You say Magellan.
Yeah.
He didn't complete the trip in 1522. He left with 5 ships from Spain. He was Portuguese.
Yeah.
And he passed it to the Strait of Magellan, but he called it the Strait of the 11,000 Virgins because the day of Santa Barbara. Later on, they call it the Strait of Magellan.
Yeah.
And when he arrived to the Moluccas, he was killed by the Indians.
Yeah.
So the circumnavigation was completed by Juan Sebastián del Cano. And just arrived 1 ship and 18 people out of 200 and something. So I started to like to read about navigation. And what was your question? Reading. I also always, I like to read. And so every night I read 1 hour or something. What is your question, please?
When did you find Joyce?
Yeah.
So then you're reading books like Nietzsche, you know, besides studying engineering, you're reading all this. You've got attracted to reading books on the composers and on navigation. When did you discover Joyce and go towards that direction?
When I was studying in Rio, because I took also postgraduate studies here in Rio. I was living with a friend, and he was reading Ulysses. So he said it was very difficult, a translation into Portuguese. And when I went to the Ohio State, there Fritz Sen was there.
Oh, I see.
See, he presented a movies about Finnegan's Wake. I saw this documentary. It's a kind of documentary, and I didn't understand anything. And then the years passed, and I went to Dublin for a conference because I was working with. Now I don't work with engineering. I work in a travel agency. We do corporate travel. We went in a conference about hotels in Dublin, and the hotel was in the outskirts of Dublin, is close to Vico Road. And so after this conference, I went to the city, and I went to the Trinity College, and the library. At the time, the library was open to the public. I saw the Book of Kells, and I bought I bought Ulysses and Finnegan's Wake. And when we came back to Rio, there was a teacher, English teacher of English literature. She had a group of reading in Ulysses, and I started to read with her and other people during 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And also we had a group of reading later on Shakespeare. We read more than 30 plays out of 39. We also went to London to see some plays. We saw 4 or 5 plays. And I always interested in navigation. Was interested in navigation. I read many books about this. And I started to do some sailing with a sailboat. And as I read something about this and reading Ulysses is a parody of the Odyssey.
Yeah.
And Odysseus was lost in the Mediterranean. And reading Ulysses, I realized that his language was, Bloom was navigating around Dublin like Odysseus in the Mediterranean, lost, going back to his Ithaca, to his Penelope. And I saw that there were many nautical terms and references to naval battles, the maritime history, navigation, nautical terms, and also in this group of reading of Shakespeare, I also noted that his language was nautical. If you want to say that something in front, he says in the bow. If something in the rear, he says in the stern.
Yeah.
If something in the table is on deck on. And there are many references about navigation, physical and astronomical in Shakespeare. There is a book about Shakespeare and the sea that says this is a Falcone. Last name is Falcone. He said that before being a playwright, Shakespeare was in the Royal Navy.
Yeah.
So he uses these nautical terms everywhere. All the place, the Tempest is full of terms of navigation. If you take Othello, is about the Battle of Lepanto. If you take the Merchant of Venice, the Argosies are the ships of the time. If you take Antony and Cleopatra, is the Battle of Actium, 31 before Christ, between Mark Antony and Octavian. the triumvirs, and so on. There is lots of allusions to navigation in Shakespeare and Joyce. So I developed this. I started doing. I used to go to this symposia. The first one I went in 2004. It was the centennial of the Bloomsday in Dublin. There I met Fritzen and others. And then I went to London in 2016, 2017 to Toronto, 18 to Antwerp, 19 Mexico, and last year Dublin again, the centennial of the publishing of Ulysses. And I was doing a presentation for a symposium. I started with some slides taken from the book, but always related to this bias of navigation. I arrived to 200 slides, then 500 slides, 900 slides. And then a friend of mine, I showed it, a friend of mine in the symposium, said, why don't you make a book of this? And so the idea, during the pandemic, I worked hard in order to finish the book. So here's the book.
What year did the book come out?
No, it took me 4 years to produce the book.
In what year did it come out?
It came out to 2021.
Wow, congratulations. Now, this is a follow-up question, Decio. You gave a good history of that. In your, you found your little specialty of how you could take your knowledge of sailboats and navigation in nautical terms and see how they interconnect with James Joyce, Ulysses, and Finnegan's Wake. A screenwriting teacher told me great art, great book is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Kubrick says the opposite. Great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. What role did intention play in your creative process writing your book?
Well, as I said, I was thinking to do a presentation, but the presentation was just 20 minutes. We were allowed just for 20 minutes. And so as I keep going and arriving to so many slides, I transform it into a book. But the intention was because a friend of mine said, you can transform this into a book. I didn't want to make money with this. I'm giving to my friends.
Yeah, but
it's just for self-fulfillment.
For self-fulfillment, that's a great reason. Yeah. But Marcel Duchamp said there's no art without an audience. How much were you thinking of your potential readers when you were writing your book?
Houston, here we have a problem. Yeah, Joyce was multidisciplinary. He had a holistic view of everything.
Yeah.
He had a systems approach. If you talk about cricket in Ulysses, he talks about with the technical terms of cricket. If he talks about navigation, he talks really with the nautical terms, all the correct names. The book is very well structured. And as he had this general view of things, his approach is, I would say, related to linguistics, humanities, and also to the technical scientific approach.
Yeah.
And I realized that when I went to this symposia, that 90% of the audience are related to the humanities.
Yeah.
Just a few people like me from the technical and scientific approach. So people from the humanities, they are not so interested in technical terms.
Yeah.
And the people from the scientific approach, they are not used to read Ulysses. So I am in the middle of this situation.
Yeah. But that's good because you're navigating. It's like navigating between. It's a metaphor. And I'm curious, Decio, how do you distinguish art from science? You know, James Joyce solved problems which science has not formulated as problems. And so, how do you define what science is and what art is? Are they the same? Are they different? Because isn't James Joyce really a social engineer? I mean, you come out of engineering. You're civil engineer, he's social engineer. Is there a difference between science and art? And what is it?
Science is more objective and based on data, as we talked before. And art is frequently related to feelings. It's subjective, related to feelings and opinions. So the basic difference is that for me.
Yeah. But I heard, Paul Valery says science finds no truths. It discovers unknown facts that can be interpreted in 1,000 different ways. So, we turn to science for truth. And you brought up Louis Buñuel earlier. He said, the director, Discreet Charm and Discreet Charm and Phantom of Liberty. He said, I'm for anyone who seeks the truth, but I part ways when they claim they found it. So, do you turn to science for truth or do you turn to art for truth? How do you differ? How do you detect when something is true?
Now, this is an important question because the truth is another ideal thing, like happiness. Yeah. The mathematical truth is 2 plus 2 makes 4. And the sum of the angles of a triangle makes 180 degrees. This is easy to prove. This is truth. But if you take the justice, for instance, the truths, if you are in the Supreme Court, you have an odd number of ministers of this court because they have to vote. And then they cannot be even. One faction has to win. So they give their vote. They interpret the codes related to that issue, that crime or something like this. And they have to vote. So I don't understand how is the truth in justice, because they have to vote.
Yeah.
In religion, you have to believe in all these dogmas and mysteries, the transcendency, and all this stuff related to the religion, using just the faith. See?
Yeah, it's tough. Faith. It's another thing because the word believe has the word lie in the middle of it. Picasso said art is a lie that tells the truth.
Yeah. See.
But you know, Decio, when I told that Buñuel quote, most people go, "Oh, that's good. I'm for anyone who seeks the truth, but they part ways when I claim they found it." But one person goes, "No, that's bullshit, because if I'm going to seek something, it's because I want to find it." And the cliche goes, the journey is more important than the destination. Why do we have to name or seek a destination if the journey is more important?
Well, I'm a travel agent. I like to travel. No, I'm a travel agent with my brother, and we do travel, corporate travel. I've been around more than 80 countries, 80, and I know 42 states of your country. And for me, the destination, I'm a planner, and as an engineer, we do planning all the time, so I don't have so many surprises.
Yeah.
And when I prepare a trip, I do all the plannings for if I go to work by work or going for leisure. I do all my planning. And when I arrive there, it's just to follow my schedule or my programming. So for me, the preparation is more important than the destination.
There you go. I love that. So back to James Joyce, a couple other things. You said you get Finnegan's Wake maybe 10%. How much do you think Joyce Wake? How much percentage did he understand the wake?
Not 100%.
Yeah, that's what I agree.
Because Finnegan's Wake is like a onion.
Yeah.
There are many layers. The first layer is the booklet.
Yeah.
The history is about a family, a guy, his wife, two sons, twins, and a sister and a daughter. And he's a owner of a pub. And there are some issues. It's like the original sin. He was looking the girls urinating in the park. So this was his sin, great sin.
Yeah.
And he was judged for that. And could you repeat the question, please? Yeah.
No, you answered it. It was how much did Joyce get Finnegan's Wake? And you said not 100%. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
There are many layers in Finnegan's Wake.
Yeah.
And to go deep inside it is very difficult. I had many books as guidebooks to read Finnegan's Wake. I started after I finished Ulysses. Somebody told me that it was about a dream, awake. You know? So I started reading the interpretation of dreams.
Yeah.
Freud wrote more than 100 years ago, but it didn't help me so much about this.
Yeah.
And I bought many books about as guides, like the many books. I have many books.
Oh yeah, there's so many.
And so I think that Joyce used this history, this booklet about this family is like an opera. I told you this before. It's like an opera. The libretto is really easy. but the music is very complex.
Yeah.
It's Finnegan's Wake. And
Yeah.
he did it like a collage, as he did in Ulysses. If you take Ulysses annotated or Finnegan's Wake annotated by McHargan, there is interpretation of each phrase, each word, each
Yeah.
each portmanteau word. So you can interpretation by words, by phrases, or by subject, many aspects of the book. And he made a collage like a painting, like this. He put things in the tableau, and many things he didn't know what it's about.
Yeah.
I think this.
If you could ask Joyce a question about the wake, what would the question be? Or better yet, what question remains unresolved for you about the wake?
90%. I don't know. Is a very difficult riddle.
Yeah.
This question for me is difficult to answer. Sorry about this.
No, don't be sorry. That's a good answer. How has reading Finnegan's Wake out loud with a group of people shaped your behavior? What has it done to Decio to read a book out loud with a group of people?
It helps a lot because of the sounding, the music. I had a friend I met in the symposium called Robert Amos. He recorded. He did a recording of Finnegan's Wake during 6 years, and is very well presented. And I use it to listen to this. It helped me a lot. Then when we go to this reading group, the reading line by line is helps a lot. It's because if you read just mentally, you don't get all the information. But we have to make lots of research in order to understand a little bit of Finnegan's Wake. Discuss, go to the symposia, read see the presentations, and read many books. Is a book to read for your whole life.
Yeah. So two of my film heroes say, there is no self-expression, ignore yourself. Great jazz pianist Cecil Taylor says, I'm just a vehicle and this stuff just comes through me. So is art making more self-expression or more you're a vehicle for whatever technologies, culture, and environments are dominant?
I understand that in order to produce a work of art, the artist has to do lots of himself. For me, it's a self-expression. It shows lots of the inside of the author. If we take Joyce, for instance, all his books is related to his life. The Dubliners, the portrait is when he was young. Ulysses, he is Stephen, he is also Bloom. So is a mirror of his life.
That's a good word.
His self. His
Yeah.
self is there.
That's a great.
Another artist, Picasso. Picasso had many phases: blue phase, cubism, so on, and so he changed.
That's a good word, Decio. But can art making or book making or music making be egoless? Can it be egoless?
So we have, according to Freud, we have the ego and the superego. The id is our impulses, our desires. The ego is that suffers all these impulses and desires, lives it, and the superego controls it. And we cannot go out of our ego. Our ego is part of everything of our life. So we need to live with our ego. We cannot go egoless. If you are egoless, you are nobody.
What's more important, conviction or compromise?
I think they're not either or.
Yeah.
And when for instance, we deal with this real estate. When I sign a contract with a client, I have the compromise to fulfill that we signed, we pactuated. So is what is the other? What is the question? Is about
conviction or compromise?
I have the conviction that I fulfill this compromise of this contract.
Yeah. No, that's a good answer. Is perception reality?
Well, human beings have 5 senses. Our senses give us the idea of, the vision gives us the idea of space. The hearing gives us the idea of time. And our perception comes from these are the antennas of we have to our environment, and that gives us our reality. But we have another kind of perception, as Immanuel Kant says, the a priori knowledge, because the senses give us the experience, the empirical knowledge, but the mind gives us a priori knowledge. We know that a circle is round a priori. We see some mathematical truths a priori. You say priori or priori?
Yeah, you got a priori. That's fine. I don't even know, but you're communicating the idea well. I love how you break down vision and hearing, because the neuroscientists say that that vision is the dominant sense. But I think this is the key to Finnegan's Wake, is that it's an eye experience. You're looking at a book, but you have to experience looking at a book by hearing the words. So it shifts an eye experience into an ear experience. That was good.
He deals a lot with the eye and the ear.
Yeah.
Even in Ulysses and Finnegan's Wake.
Yeah.
All the
But
time.
it's also, you're talking about something deeper sometimes here, that it's not just the evident that's up there. There's something deeper in non-physical, non-verbal. And T.S. Eliot said that poetry is outing your inner dialogue. So what language is your inner dialogue in?
That's difficult. I don't know. Maybe it's cryptographic hieroglyphics.
That is good. That is good answer.
When you study, when childs, they born not speaking. They learn how to speak. The mother and the teacher gives him images, and the child starts to know some words, like the hieroglyphics,
Yeah.
like images.
Yeah. No, that was
According to Lacan, we have the imaginary, the symbolic, and the real.
yeah.
And the conjunction of the three as the entanglement of three circles makes the symptom.
It's good.
This is the knowledge. And could you repeat the question? I lost it.
No, you did it. We only got 10 more minutes. That was good. It was basically, is perception reality?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you answered it well. What's the most significant difference between men and women, physical aside?
Men, well, it's difficult. We are all the same. Man is more, I would say, more pragmatic, more analytic. And women are more intuitive, goes to more details. But they are lovely.
I love you said we're all the same right off the bat. Now, Decio, there's a line, a thought that goes, you create what you resist. The comedian Bob Goldthwait morphed it into you are what you hate. In fact, James Joyce said it's a curious thing how your mind is super saturated with the religion in which you say you disbelieve. And Louis Buñuel said, thank God I'm an atheist. So, this line that goes, you create what you resist. I'm not saying you, Decio, but one creates what one resists. Any thoughts on that line?
If we take art, for instance, I like the classical art. But if we take modern art or contemporary art, it's difficult to understand. Maybe you have to know the artist in order to interpret what is going to present. So sometimes we don't like why his art because we don't understand his art.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's difficult. Modern art for me is difficult to understand.
How do you find peace of mind?
As I said, you are sailing for more than 40 years. And it's the seventh boat I have. And I go, during all the weekends, I go out to do some sailing with my friends here in Rio de Janeiro, the Guanabara Bay. And we really have a peace of mind. We forget all these troubles, all the issues, all the problems. So I'm concentrated in taking advantage of the elements, the air and the water.
How many foot boat is it? How long boat?
I have a 36-footer.
Fiberglass or wood?
Fiberglass and wood.
Both. Yeah. These are 5. We got about 8 more minutes. Thank you, Decio. Here's 5 questions from Alan Watts, just off the top of your head in a few words. Number 1, who started it all?
Well, we have to start from the very beginning. It was the Big Bang. And then in our Earth, the primarily soup, the chemical, inorganic and organic chemicals produced the first beings, and that growing and developing the animals, the plants, and everything from this organic chemical.
Very good. Number 2, are we going to make it?
Definitely. I'm optimist.
Where do we put it?
On the table.
Who's cleaning it up?
Here we have a maid.
Is it serious?
Don't take it so serious.
You are smart. Can you forget to die?
Well, we die every day. When we go to bed, we get unconscious. And the other day, we resurrect to be conscious.
That's it.
Yeah, to die is like to remove your cord from the outlet. So
That's it.
let's forget about it.
Good metaphor. If you were walking down the street today and you met yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
All right. Take care. Go ahead. Pursue your career. Good luck.
Which way should toilet paper come off the roll, over or under?
The answer to that question, my friend, is blowing in the wind.
High five. That's a good answer. Decio, if a publisher was to release your autobiography off the top of your head, what would the title be?
I would imitate Oscar Wilde. As a playwright, he wrote A Woman of No Importance. Mine would be A Man of No Importance. Quoting Oscar Wilde.
Very good. The publisher wants to scent the glue in the binding. What smell?
I like sandal.
If a statute was made in your honor, where would you want it displayed and what would it be made of?
Well, once I was sailing in the Caribbean, I was going in the Florida Keys. We were sailing down to the Isla Morada or Key Largo, on there, and we stopped to do some diving in the coral reefs. And under the sea, there was a statue of Christ. I was impressed by this statue. And another time, I went to Egypt in a cruiser ship, and I went to the Museum of Cairo and saw these big statues of the pharaohs. I mean, of this for Ramses II, and so on. And I saw a huge sculpture made of blue porphyric granite.
Yeah.
It was a statue of, let's say, anthropomorphic statue. A head of a dog and a body of some person. And it was really polished and dark blue in this porphyric granite, was like brand new. And it has 5,000 years, this statue. So my statue will be in porphyric blue granite in the bottom of the sea.
Beautiful. Tell me something good you never had and you never want.
Well, fancy cars, expensive car, I'm not interested.
Yeah. If you were in a vat of vomit up to your neck and someone threw a bag of shit at your face, what would you do?
I just woke up. It's not real for me.
Yeah, it's not real. Beautiful. Great answer. What's the cultural shift you see developing today that inspires you?
Well, in our work, we are dealing with the ESG protocol.
Yeah.
So is ecological, social, and governance. And the corporates, they have to comply with this protocol. And this is a great change for the environment, the social differences, to reduce this social difference, to have a better environment, and so on. I think this is a new improvement for humanity. Yeah.
That is good. Thornton Wilder was a big fan of Finnegan's Wake. In 1928, he said, "Art is confession. Art is the secret told." But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time. You've laid your cards on the table for over 90 minutes. I'm not insinuating you haven't already answered this. Decio, what's it really all about for you?
Well, the artists, they don't give us things for granted. He has to hide something in order to the public of the watcher of this art has make some reflection, to make some interpretation of this art, so that is not, we don't take it as for granted. We have to, in order to have an epiphany in front of a piece of art, we have to do some effort.
Yeah. That is good. To have an epiphany, you have to make an effort.
And you say, ah.
Ah, you mean when you have an epiphany, the sound you make?
You open your mouth.
Yeah. Okay, last question, Decio. Thank you so much. What gives you the most optimism?
Well, as I said, to have the satisfaction of our needs, we have to do some planning.
Yeah.
To plan ahead. And when we have all the data and then proceed all the data in order to have the information and build a project to endeavor an objective to arrive to a success. If you do the planning, you are you are a natural optimist, because the things goes as you plan it. We don't have so many surprises.
Natural optimist. I like those two words. So the first question, Decio, is what's the best thing for a human being? And you answered it well. Wilhelm Reich said the best thing for a human being is another human being. And you actually went into it by saying good relations with other people. The last question is what gives you the most optimism? This is what they asked Groucho Marx at the end of his life. He said, other people. So it's sure been fun spending this time with another person. And I especially want to thank you for attending all our reading groups, because your contributions and input are always so important to us. We really appreciate all your input.
It's
yes.
I have a great pleasure to be with you in this group. Yes.
Yeah, it's great. We have great groups. We're lucky we have such vast span from Texas to Brazil to Dublin to, Ohio, all over the world. It's amazing.
Yeah, you can count on me. It's a pleasure. Yeah.
It is. It's a pleasure and an honor. And even though I'm going to hit the end broadcast button, I hope our conversation never ends and we can keep talking forever and ever.
Okay. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much, Jerry.
Thank you.